This is Dave Jones with StormCenter Communications and GeoCollaborate. It's about 8:30 on October 9th. It is Wednesday night, and we have a landfalling hurricane. Hurricane Milton is now crossing the coastline. I said a little bit earlier, as did the National Weather Service, that landfall would be somewhere between 8 and midnight. It seemed to me it was going to be closer to about 8:30, and that's what we have right now. Officially, National Hurricane Center, we're waiting for them to come back with it. But you can tell from this wide radar view that I have displayed that just about half the eye has crossed the coastline, and things have calmed down a bit in places like Bradenton and Sarasota. It's not a very clean eye where you can get out there and look up and you can see clear skies. There's a lot of cloudiness. There's a tremendous amount of rain falling over the Tampa Bay area. But one good thing that I'll show you in just a couple of minutes, we're having drainage. Instead of storm surge, we're having a blowout of Tampa Bay. The water levels are crashing there right now, which is much better than going up and over those barriers there inside of Tampa Bay. So this is the way it looks. I'm going to take this full screen because I do want to share with you some additional information, particularly the latest statistics from the National Weather Service. And I'll do that here with the radar data displayed so it's easier to read. So at 8 o'clock, this is the position: 27.2 north, 82.8 west, 20 miles west-southwest of Sarasota, Florida. That was at 8 o'clock, more than 30 minutes ago. 130 miles southwest of Orlando, Florida. Max winds still 120 miles per hour. I'm going to show you that on some radar data where we can look at the winds in real time as they're spinning around using the Doppler velocity. Movement is to the east-northeast at 15 miles per hour, and the pressure up a little bit, just a little bit, 954 millibars. The hurricane is interacting with the frontal system, and it's starting the process of becoming extratropical. That means losing some of its tropical characteristics. Kind of, big deal for everybody, but meteorologists, we look at it because the structure changes, and if the tropical nature of the storm goes away, then the entire way it feeds on the ocean and the engine and how it runs changes as well. That's not going to mean anything whatsoever to the people who live in Florida because they're under huge areas of flash flood warnings right now. So there you have the stats. I'll display for you the satellite picture and what that looks like as well here. This is the mesoscale sector. I'll take the statistics off there and move this over and zoom in a little bit. Here are those storms. It's very tough to see the coastline here. Matter of fact, let me see if I can change that to a black coastline there so you can see it a little better. There you go. There's the Space Coast, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Over here is Tampa Bay. Down here is Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte. They're getting hit very hard right now with storm surge in Punta Gorda, with the storm surge up to about 4.5 feet right now. But you can see we're still getting this tremendous thunderstorm activity, or at least convection. Didn't see a lot of lightning in the data that I was looking at earlier. This is very heavy winds right in here, and it sort of falls apart from a moisture perspective around the eye. Not a lot of rain here. Again, I'll show you the local radar data here. Let me switch over to that. This is the Tampa Doppler radar from the National Weather Service, and I'll zoom out just a little bit to give you a bigger picture. This is just one radar, so it kind of falls apart as you get further out. I could switch it to Key West radar or Miami radar, but this is where all the action is right now. And I want to point out a couple of things with this radar data. First of all, you can see the rotation. Look at this. This is sort of like the eye of the hurricane right here. Things have calmed down in Bradenton. Things have calmed down a little bit in Sarasota. I can show you a surge cam, a has cam live This is how it looks down in Sarasota right now. Downtown, the streets are flooded. I can't tell you whether or not that is any surge related or it's just heavy rainfall related, but there is flooding. That's the water reflecting off of the road there, looking downtown Sarasota from Live Storms Media here. Chris Jackson putting this live stream up. And so it doesn't look like it's raining very hard, so we can get visual confirmation from a live cam, and we can also see it on radar. And so if I go back to the radar, you can show you what happens. Here is Sarasota right here, and you can see that not really much is happening at all. Here's Bradenton to the north, but I can tell you the winds are going to pick up very quickly here in the Bradenton and Sarasota area as the hurricane moves a little bit further inland. But the other thing I want to point out, look at all this area right here. This is intense rainfall. Some of the rainfall rates, as a matter of fact, we can go and check right now to see how much rain has fallen in the last, let's say, in the last 3 hours. I can stop that loop and stop it here in the very end and go in and start to interrogate this rainfall a little bit. So let's just do this together here. I'll bring this up so you can see it. Look at this offshore. This offshore rainfall total is 5.7 inches in the last 3 hours. Up towards St. Pete Beach right here. Looks like 4.8 inches of rain. Up towards Pinellas Park, 4.5 inches of rain, and in just a little bit, this is over, looks like over Tampa Bay here, 4.6 inches of rain. But if you go down towards Bradenton, just a couple of inches of rain, and even further, look at this, over the last 3 hours, just about an inch or an inch and a half of rain in Sarasota. Down further to the south is less than an inch of rain right now. Now, there was a lot of rain inland where those spiral bands were, and this is not over. The storm and the wet side has to rotate around and come back in. Hurricane Hunter aircraft did report right before the storm made landfall that the eye was open to the south and southeast. That means it didn't really have much convection. It didn't really have much energy there, storms, and you can see it. This is what it means when they say it's open to the south and southeast. Where's the rain? It's not there right now, and it's also another indication that the system is transitioning from a tropical to an extratropical system, but that's just meteorological. Now, it is not going to matter to anybody else. Here is this green outline here. This is a huge flood warning. Aerial flood warning for the entire area because of this heavy rainfall. You do not want to be out anywhere driving in this. Hopefully everybody in Central Florida is hunkered down. We still have major storm surges underway south of Tampa Bay down towards Sarasota, Venice. They've been really getting some heavy winds there as well. And I can switch this over. Let's take a look at the winds while I have this radar data on, and I'll put this back into motion here. So you're probably used to seeing Doppler radar data on TV when it's about tornadoes and looking for tornadoes. You always look for the red and the green together because that shows a difference in the wind circulation. Well, this is kind of like looking at a big tornado. This is a hurricane, and we can see how fast the winds are down here. And look at this blue area east of Sarasota. And this is still, I believe this is still in Sarasota County. I have a little bit of trouble determining that, but it's east of Sarasota, 113 mile an hour winds, 113. So there's a lot of wind happening here just to the east, in east of Bradenton, and southeast of, let's see, here's Tampa, southeast of Tampa. So there's very strong winds here, and there's also winds that are just going to be coming ashore here in the next 30 minutes. Look at these winds, 79, 82 miles per hour up towards Tampa Bay, 95 miles per hour winds. And so it's changing by the minute, but this is very intense wind right here. And this is going to cause a lot of damage when it comes in. And also in this blue area, this is almost like a big thunderstorm, rotating thunderstorm here. This is like an aerial tornado warning here, this big box as well. So it's an excessive high wind warning. Everyone should treat this like a tornado warning in this box, which encompasses all of Tampa Bay, encompasses Clearwater up to Palm Harbor, just near Tarpon Springs, and then over to Crystal Springs, just west of Lakeland. That's where the NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft are stored, and those folks are heroes, getting up and flying through the hurricanes to get us those measurements that go into numerical weather prediction models, and that makes them even more accurate. If we didn't have that data, it would be very tough to give you accurate forecasts. So this area is a don't drive, don't go out area because it's too windy and too dangerous. Now, as the storm comes inland, all of this wind is going to translate inland. And I'll zoom out here just a little bit so you can see what this looks like. And you can kind of see the winds going around counterclockwise here. But this allows us to measure it. So that's what the benefits of Doppler radar are. Well, we can see a wind coming toward and away from the radar. I'll switch it back to reflectivity. And here we go. I'll turn off the query here. And here is the rotation. This is sort of like the eye of the storm. So I'm sure the Weather Service will be out shortly. If they haven't come out already, I'm going to switch over to GeoCollaborate so I can point out a couple of things here as well. So here we go in GeoCollaborate, and I'm also going to check the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, to see if they've come up with any update. And I do see an update coming in here, so let me share it with you. 8:30 p.m. So that's just 14 minutes ago when we first started this video. Extremely dangerous Category 3 Hurricane Milton makes landfall near Siesta Key in Florida. Siesta Key. Life-threatening storm surge, extreme winds, and flash flooding occurring over the central Florida peninsula. I showed you that with that area with all those flood warnings. And they're basically saying just what I was showing you as I was showing it to you. The National Weather Service Doppler radar data indicate the eye of Hurricane Milton has made landfall near Siesta Key in Sarasota County along the west coast of Florida. A sustained wind of 78 miles per hour and a gust of 97 miles per hour was recently reported at a NOAA Seaman station in Venice, Florida. A sustained wind of 77 miles per hour and a gust of 100 miles per hour was recently reported at a weather flow station in Egmont Channel. A sustained wind of 67 miles per hour and a gust of 83 miles per hour was recently reported at a weather flow station at Skyway Fishing Pier. So that's a 67 mile an hour sustained wind with a gust of 83. And a sustained wind of 40 miles per hour with a gust of 73 miles per hour was recently reported at the Sarasota-Bradenton International Airport. So we do have a lot of activity going on. They did also update the stats to 8:30. I won't update them here. Still 120 mile per hour winds, and it's only 5 miles west of Sarasota, Florida. So that is all very much makes a lot of sense, especially with the data that I was showing you. This is GeoCollaborate. I have not shown you the radar data. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so you can see this incredible line of NOAA buoys that were dropped here. Here's one that's very close to the coast. This even looks like a newer one, unless this one was driven towards the coast by the winds, and it's on its way towards the shore. If anybody's out there after the storm and you see a buoy, a little buoy floating that looks like a ball, this is a wave drifter that might find itself up in Charlotte Harbor after this storm is over. But the significant wave height of 17.3 feet being reported right now, 17.3 feet. So these are big waves, and we do have flooding going on. Just as a reminder, this is the peak surge forecast, and I'll put on the little legend there at the top so you can see what it means. The purple, we're talking about 12 feet or higher peak surge. And in the red, Port Charlotte, there is storm surge flooding going on right there right now. That is up to 12 feet of surge is possible because remember, this is where the hurricane is. And I'll help you see that by turning on the radar data here, just so you can see where that circulation is. There you go. So there's the eye of the storm making its way into Sarasota. And then there are strong winds on the back side of it. So don't think it's over when things calm down. You say, oh, that wasn't bad. The storm is over. It's not. It's half over. And you still have that backside wind to go through, which could be stronger than what you've experienced already. And so down here, as far as storm surges go, we do have flooding going on in Naples as well. I'm going to back out here and show you. Well, maybe I'll just show you the tide gauges since we're talking about the storm surge. Let's talk about the tide gauges now as well. So here we go over to the tide gauges. We're monitoring them live. And I want to show you something pretty spectacular. And this is really dependent on where the center of the storm goes. And some of you have said in feedback to me in comments, and you were right, you know, there's going to be a blowout of Tampa Bay. But there are a lot of intricacies going on when you have a hurricane, when you don't know what the diameter of the eye is going to be when it comes ashore. But sure enough, since it made landfall in Sarasota County, Siesta Key, there's enough of back flow, northwest flow, to start blowing water out of St. Petersburg and also out of Tampa Bay. So check this out. Here's the Tampa tide gauge. Look at this. It's going along, starting to go up, and then bam, it goes right down. And so this is like the bay emptying. We saw that with a couple of storms in the past, and the tide is well down here. Now, it is going to come back when the storm passes and the winds shift around. The water is going to come back in the bay. So, and also it's night and it's very muddy water, so I wouldn't suggest anybody going in there. Look at this at Old Port Tampa. The level right here is very, very low. That's almost about empty, almost about drained there at Old Port Tampa. And right here, this is a little bit confused here at Port Manatee, Florida. The wind directions are changing, so it's not quite blown out there. Water is catching in there. And so we have some serious confusion going on in Tampa Bay currently. Now, what about Clearwater? Here's Clearwater right here. Remember, they had a huge storm surge, a record-setting storm surge when Helene went up the coast 100 miles off. And this is what it's doing now. So look at this. Instead of going up to major flood here, the wind is blowing offshore. So their tide level, their water level is much lower currently. So there's a lot more beach. That will change too as the storm moves further inland and the wind switches around. So it doesn't look like they'll have any record surges with this particular storm, which is wonderful. But they are having tremendous rain and incredible winds on the northern side of the storm right now. Now let's go to the south just a little bit because I want to show you what's happening to the south. This is where we have onshore wind blowing very, very hard. Venice, I think I saw on the Doppler radar, perhaps winds in the 80s, the 80 range. Here is Fort Myers. This is in This is Fort Myers Beach. Remember Sanibel and Captiva that were so hard hit during Ian. This is what their level is doing, and look at that. It's going vertical. It's going vertical. They're already in moderate flooding right now there in Fort Myers, Florida, and I keep thinking of Port Charlotte, and that's just up to the north. But in Fort Myers, this is flooding, so it's moderate flooding currently right now. And I'll go just to the south a little bit more, down to Naples, and this is the way the tide gauge looks right now in Naples. That is in major flooding status right now. Remember, we were watching it right here when it started going up. The winds are continuing to blow onshore, and they will be for many more hours. We're starting to go up towards a high tide, so this is going to go even higher. High tide is going to be about this time, about 4 in the morning or so, and so we still have a lot more water to go, because that water is still going to be pushed by the hurricane. So that's what we're seeing as far as tidal surge. Now let's talk about inland and go to the East Coast just for a second. We are seeing a lot of onshore wind from pressure gradients from that frontal system and the hurricane. So there's a lot of strong winds blowing in from the ocean. Matter of fact, there's a hurricane warning in effect just south of Jacksonville along the whole east coast of Florida, and storm surge warnings as well. This is what the tide looks like right now. We're just starting to get into a high tide, and the water is already above what the predicted or normal level is. And you can see that we might be up here. Hopefully we won't get into a flooding situation in this particular location, which is Mayport, the bar pilot stock there. If we go in just a little bit, the St. Johns River in Jacksonville, touching minor flooding a little bit, and you're seeing we're going to be entering a high tide soon over the next several hours. That may be a little bit higher because of the wind-driven surge coming in from Milton. This one here is a little bit more concerning. This is South Bank Riverwalk on the St. Johns River, and you can see it touched into minor flood stage, and then it just keeps rising. See the trend? It's getting higher, and then it's going to get higher here. So we might touch moderate flooding and perhaps even major flooding as time goes on over the next day. Because remember, Milton has to move off the coast and out in the Atlantic. It's still going to be exposing the east-facing beaches with a lot of exposure and a lot of fetch. So it's a lot of area for the wind to blow. Now look at this. This is the I-295 Buckman Bridge here on the St. John River. It is in flood stage, and it has been in flood stage since Thursday, a prediction. It's in moderate flood stage right now, and the prediction is, because of the persistent wind and rain that's going to be coming, that we are going to get into major flood stage by Thursday around 11 o'clock in the morning. We're going to touch upon it here Thursday early, about 6, and then it's going to go up and stay in flood stage for quite a bit of time. So that's going to have impacts. Please pay attention to that locally in Jacksonville if you live in that area. Now, what I'd like to do is go back over to GeoCollaborate, because I do want to talk about the impacts inland. I'm going to turn this radar data off. I'm going to back out a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the impacts here, because I know a lot of you are getting ready to go to bed, and now you have the eye wall of a hurricane that's heading towards you in Orlando and all the places between Tampa and Orlando, like Lakeland specifically, and there are many other areas. But I want to just zoom out even more so you can see this, and it makes a lot of sense to you. I'm going to turn off the radar data, that layer. So we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to turn off the ocean observing systems. We love those observing systems. They've given us tremendous data. I'm going to turn those off for right now. And I'm going to turn off the peak surge around the coast. Turn that off. keep the warnings on here because it's always good to see where warnings are happening. So I want to talk about impacts as this system moves across Florida. What is expected to happen? See if I can move a little bit more. That should be a good zoom level. And now I want to turn on the inland impacts. First of all, let's talk about the wind threat. We know that Milton is a hurricane right now. It is forecast to maintain hurricane status across the entire peninsula. So we're talking about a hurricane here. Once the storm's winds go below about 100 miles per hour, that's when this catastrophic damage from wind ends. So it transitions into serious damage. I know that's not much as far as words are concerned. We could still see significant damage here as the storm moves across because we have the potential for very strong wind gusts. Even though the storm might be down to 100-mile-per-hour winds by midnight or after midnight, it doesn't mean we can't have 100-mile-an-hour or 105-mile-an-hour wind gusts or 110 miles an hour. So as the storm moves across, this red area is the danger that we need to think about in this entire area. So this is considerable roof damage to sturdy buildings, with some having window, door, and garage door failures, leading to structural damage. By the way, if you have a home with a garage in it, if you can lock the garage door, do that. And if you have any other metal pieces you can put to hold it securely, that's a good thing to do. Also, close all of the doors inside of your home or your place of business. That adds additional structural integrity to the structure, so it can keep it even more sturdy when the heavy winds blow. You could have many large trees snapped or uprooted, along with fences and roadway signs blown over. Some roads are impassable and from large debris, and more within urban or heavily wooded places. So that's what we can expect across this big strip in Florida. Now, keep in mind, there are thousands of linemen and utility workers waiting for the storm to pass so they can get right to work, starting to clear debris, assess damage, and see how long it's going to take for them to get to those poles to repair them, and to determine how much damage is done to the transmission side of the grid. That's what delivers all the big power. That's the huge, tall power poles that you see where they do these big cuts through the woods. They're the big, tall ones. But the distribution is what delivers the electricity to your house. They're the power poles. They're the transformers. Thank you. The transformers are the things that blow and can put power out. So that all has to be repaired when power goes out. And we have heard lots of reports of glowing explosions in the atmosphere. Some people think it's lightning. No, it's actually transformers that are blowing and shorting out. So you see that big flash. So that area is this whole red area. In the purple area, where we're still going through, there is still that excessive high wind warning in effect right now. This is the kind of damage that could be being caused right this moment. Structural damage to sturdy buildings, some with complete roof and wall failure, complete destruction of mobile homes, damage greatly accentuated by large airborne projectiles, numerous large trees snapped or uprooted, many roads impassable from large debris, and widespread power and communication outages. Excuse me. So the other impact is this orange area that goes all the way up to Palm Coast and Jacksonville. The reason that expanded to further north is because the hurricane is interacting with a frontal system, a baroclinic zone, meteorologically speaking, which will expand the wind field because the system tends to expand when it becomes tropical and transitions to extratropical. So we could have this kind of damage up here in the orange. So there's also flash flood warnings up there. Some damage to roofing and siding materials, along with damage to porches, awnings, carports, and sheds. A few buildings experiencing window and door and garage door failures. Mobile homes, especially if unanchored, they could be damaged, and unsecured lightweight objects become dangerous projectiles. Remember, I talked about that in a couple of videos ago before the storm hit. Get everything off your yard. Get everything out of your place of business, out of the parking lots that can become projectiles when a storm like a hurricane comes through, because that can injure people and damage other property. Several large trees snapped or uprooted, but with greater numbers in places where trees are shallow rooted. Several fences and roadway signs blown over, some roads impassable from large debris, more within urban or heavily wooded places. Scattered power and communication outages, but more prevalent in areas with above ground lines. That's this whole orange area, even like Okeechobee, all the towns in there, around there. That is certainly something that you have to be on the lookout. Hopefully, if you've lost power or you're about to lose power because the storm's headed your way, make sure all your devices are charged up. And hopefully the cellular connection will remain, so you can remain and you can text your loved ones, let them know that you're okay, let them know the status of things, so they don't have to be worry warts all night wondering what happened to you. Out here, you can see these are actual warnings. This is from that line that was producing so many tornadoes, more than 120 tornado warnings, I believe, so far today out of that line of thunderstorms, the outer bands of the hurricane, which is very close to, if not a record for the state of Florida in the number of tornado warnings that they've issued. And these are special marine warnings out here. Hopefully there are no boaters out there right now. You got a hurricane coming, and that is something not to deal with at all. In the yellow areas here, down towards Miami, there's just little impacts, maybe some strong gusty winds blowing some lightweight objects around, maybe some tree limbs coming off, maybe a few roads impassable from some branches, and some scattered power outages. That applies here too, up towards the Georgia coastline and up to Savannah, because this is all open. Winds are going to be blowing very strong against the coastline there, and we do have coastal impacts. I'm going to switch to that right now. So that was the wind impacts. The coastal threats, yes, we have them. Here are the ones in Jacksonville. You just saw when I was looking at the tide gauges. Some of them are forecast to be in pretty high flood on the St. John River. And then also all the beaches here and the coastal areas that are facing the Atlantic will be subject to storm surge of 1 to 3 feet, and also 3 to 5 feet down towards Savannah and Georgia and eastern the east coast of Florida here. So that is significant. It's a significant storm. It's covering a huge area, and these are the coastal flood. I've covered the West Coast in pretty detail, so I'll turn off the coastal floods and talk about the flooding. This purple area is where the largest chances are for major flooding. It's going on right now, and there are flood warnings popping up all over the place. So please watch the water levels inland. If you normally flood, you're going to flood tonight. If you rarely flood, you may flood tonight because this rain is so intense. Pay close attention to NOAA radio if you have it. If you have one of those crank NOAA radios, you don't have to worry about plugging it in or a battery. But NOAA radio is your best solution for local warnings. And then, of course, your favorite local broadcast meteorologist that's going to break into programming and tell you what's going on, assuming you have power. And so that is the flooding area. And it just tapers off as you go further away from the center of the storm. And the last thing is the tornado threat. Well, we knew that. That's where all of the tornado warnings were coming from during the day today, and still have that opportunity while the storm is cutting across Florida. Highest risk is in the dirty side of the hurricane that we call the northeast quadrant, where wind shear is at its maximum and tornadoes frequently form. And today they really did with this intense hurricane heading towards the coastline. So that's it for the hazards. I'm just going to turn on the initial wind radii just to show you where the tropical storm force winds are right now. Yep, that's the forecast of the wind radii. I want to turn on the initial wind radii. Here it is. Look at that. It's getting larger and larger. It still extends from the Keys all the way around to the Big Bend area, Apalachicola, and beyond, almost to Tallahassee. Tropical storm force winds. And so that's going to continue to move itself over. As a matter of fact, it looks to me like that didn't update. Let me just try something here and see if I can force it to update. Stand by just 1 second. I'm going to go to the wind radii, and I'm going to say, give me an updated one, please. They usually update on their own. There we go. There we go. So it updated just fine. I just had to give it a little kick in the pants. I will zoom out here so you can just see how big that wind radii is. And as the storm moves across, think of this area as the damage area moving across Florida. That was consistent with that red area, remember, that I showed you. And then these are tropical storm force winds that are able to break branches and also may do some damage to small objects and things like that. But this is the latest update, started at 8:30, and look at that, it's 9:08. I talk too much, and I apologize for that. But I do thank you for watching this update. We're very thankful for the utility crews and mutual assistance that happens. You know, when Hurricane Helene came by and went up the coast and caused the major flooding in Appalachia, it was the largest fleet movement in utility sector history. Largest fleet movement in utility sector history. And so we had a lot of those utility workers that were finishing their jobs in parts of Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina. That's going to take a long, long time to really get that area back up and on their feet. We certainly will do everything we can to support them. But a lot of those linemen were then reassigned to come and stage for Milton. So they'll be back at it probably day after tomorrow when the winds calm down. They can't get up in their bucket trucks with tropical storm force winds. It's not safe. So please be patient with them and know that your power will come back. There are huge numbers of crews and responders that are waiting for when it's safe to get back in and help Florida recover. So thanks for watching this update. I'm Dave Jones with StormCenter Communications and GeoCollaborate. This has been an update for the All Hazards Consortium, the Sensitive Information Sharing Environment, and the private sector liaisons for the state emergency operations centers, so you can share information with your private sector partners so they know what you know. And everybody is on a level playing field when it comes to sharing information. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning. Unless conditions warrant, we may have one more tonight, which I'll try to keep under 5 minutes, if that's even possible. But we have this major hurricane moving across the state of Florida, and we have major impacts, lots of power outages. So maybe we'll do one more tonight. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Please take care of yourself and take care of your neighbors.